Welcome, brothers around the world. This is David, founder of Evolving Man, the platform for a wholehearted and grounded masculinity. And I have a very special guest with me today. It's Simon, Simon Paul Sutton is your name, right? Your full name?
My full name.
I know Simon from the project, from the work that he's doing together with his partner, Dara. So I've been following their work on social media for a while now. And yeah, you call your work radical intimacy?
Yeah, one branch of it is radical intimacy, yes.
And then you also, I've seen you talk a lot about sexuality, freeing our sexual side, or letting go of the shame and guilt around sexuality, and various ways of just stepping into aliveness, stepping into what's true. And yeah, so I feel really I've already enjoyed the few minutes we had before we went live, and grateful that you are taking the time to be on the call on this live. And yeah, I'm super curious to dive into what radical intimacy means to you, how that relates for you to masculinity, and yeah, just see what comes up in the call, in the process.
Perfect. Shall I begin? And maybe a good question back to you first might be, based on what you've seen, because I know there's a lot of information out there, and we're all exploring and listening to different messengers. What was your interpretation of radical intimacy, or in terms of what you've seen? Because it would be quite interesting. I haven't asked somebody that before. It might be quite interesting to see if what I may feel it is actually being communicated.
Nice. Yeah, I like the question. What is radical intimacy? So the things that come up for me is being radically honest with myself about what I'm experiencing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm wanting. So first of all, for myself, and then being able to share what's going on inside of me transparently with others, and step into this space of not knowing. I don't know what's going to happen. I can just commit to being fully present and being truthful, but I have no control over where this will go once I step into that. And yeah, to just allow the surrender that comes with that, and just, everything that opens up from there.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I like this idea of just showing up and surrendering and going with whatever's there and trusting in that moment. And I was doing an event a while ago, and somebody said that they were like, yes, like, you're really radical, not everyone's radical, you're radical. It's like, yeah. And and they were like, it's too radical, right? And then it was quite amusing, because I said, yeah, but you came to the event called Radical Intimacy. It's like, it's like sometimes humans, I love humans, and and it was like, and then I felt into that. Maybe I didn't, just going with what's alive in this moment. I felt into that. I was like, yeah, maybe I'm just too radical. Maybe I'm just too radical. Maybe I'm just a raging optimist, and I'm just, I'm just just too far out there for what's for what's possible. And then I fell into that and sat with that. And then I was like, well, yeah, that might be the case, and that doesn't really matter. What matters is that I'm showing up in the most authentic way that I can. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, radical intimacy, really the way that we break down intimacy is into me I see. So it's a radical invitation to look inside at yourself. It's a radical invitation to ask the big questions of, who am I? What am I? What's my contribution? Whose beliefs and conditioning and programs and ideas and so on have I adopted and taken from my upbringing, from my culture, and from this idea of other people's expressions of what this phenomenal mystery is really all about. And I by no means claim to know that I've got the answers or even need the answers to the whole big picture of what it's about. But what I do like at the moment what's moving through us in, let's say, a more collective conscious way, and definitely thanks to the internet in the last sort of 15, 20 years, is that we are being invited, if we want to go through a transition, to an initiation, to a metamorphosis, if you will, into a fully expressed and full responsibility human being that is now realizing that actually we are gods in the flesh. We are these beings. They're unique, they're intelligent, they're miraculous. They are here, we are here, and we're not these sheeple who are supposed to just follow the norm and follow the conformity and just say yes to all the shit that deep down we don't believe to be a true yes. So radical intimacy is a radical no or a radical yes. Either way, it's a yes or a no. And like one of the things that me and Dara do is that when we're asking a question, we've started to do this really cool thing where in 2 seconds, if you can't answer the question in 2 seconds with a yes, yeah, then it's definitely a no. If it's a maybe, it's a no.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for me, this is a radical way of being. So is it a yes to come on this call? You send me a message, boom. Is it a yes? David Lyons, saw him a few times, boom. Yes, it's a yes. I don't need to think about it for 3 days or 4 days or 5 days and wonder what I'm going to say and what I'm not going to say and whether you've got a following or whether I'm going to get friends from this or any of that shit. It's somebody asked me a question. Is it a yes or a no? It's a yes. Okay, boom. It's a no. I'm sorry, it's a no. And I don't take that. I don't need to take on other people's reactions from that. It's nothing's personal. And so within that, I'm kind of a radical in the sense that if a collective species that we've seen already has created the structures and the societies that we're seeing out there at the moment, right? They've been created by thought forms and actions and behaviors from a collective psyche. So for me, I'm just quite a simple person. You could call me Simple Simon. If the collective consciousness, the psyche, has created what we're witnessing, and we don't like that, then it makes total sense to me that as we change our consciousness and we change our psyche and we reclaim who we really are, then we can create a whole new society, a whole new systems, whole new structures. Everything changes. And at the moment, that's what I'm excited about. Everything is crumbling all around us, whether you see it or not, it's crumbling. The monetary system, the business system, every system, the pharmaceutical industry, the health, the knowledge and the wisdom that we've sort of been constructed on is also all falling away. It's so amazing. It's so beautiful because it's like, okay, if I'm not attached to any of that, what wants to emerge? What wants to birth itself through that? And that for me is really a radical approach, you could say, to what's going on in the world right now. And I feel, actually, just to leave this, and love to hear what you feel about this, is that if we want to see radical change, then we need some radical action, right? Yeah. And that radical action doesn't mean that we need to be doing from a state of unconsciousness and just think, do more, and get all caught up in the masculine drive. It means stop, radically breathe, radically take some time out, and then radically move from a state of being so that we can create a more beautiful world our hearts know is right here, right now. And so that's what drives me, David. That's what drives me.
Boom. And I can feel that all the way until here. Before I go into responding, I just want to invite the people who might be joining in live. I have the Facebook Live in front of me. So if there are any questions that you have or comments that you want to bring into this conversation, then I will look and find ways to weave it into our conversation. Yeah. What came up while I was listening to you, Simon, was maybe this like radical way that you're describing is just radical because of the world we're living in, but maybe it's not that weird.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to give people who don't know Dara and Simon's work a bit more reference of what makes them, some of the aspects that in my eyes make them radical is, so one thing is they work on gift. They don't have a set price for the stuff that they're offering. They are asking people who join their programs to evaluate for themselves at the end how much it was worth for them. And that for me is a pretty radical act.
It's radical indeed.
And another thing is you both are not scared to show up fully you and be crazy. So I've really enjoyed these like short videos with the two of you. just showing your crazy sides, your spontaneity, your flaws, your insecurities, and in such a matter of fact way, like that I can really sense, wow, you're living this on a daily basis, so it's not such a big deal.
Right.
I mean, obviously on some level it's always a big deal because it's what's alive in this present moment. And so yeah, that for me, I mean, experientially makes it a big deal because it's alive, like it's pulsating. It's like, but it doesn't seem like it's something that you need to bring yourself into this mode or something. It's
yeah, right.
It's what feels best for you and most natural.
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice observation, and I appreciate that observation. Sometimes people come and stay with us, and they're like, "Oh, it's like living on a retreat," yeah, and because we do retreats and so on, and it's kind of funny that people say that, because when we go on retreat, we say, "Well, we're just like really showing up and sharing with you the stuff we do day to day, and if you like it, you can do it. If you don't, then that's okay. You don't have to either." So yeah, it's like, so maybe I just tell you, maybe for your viewers, I might just go step back a little bit and tell you why I started speaking radically. You called it radical honesty, but I would call it, well, which is perfect. It's not about changing that. It's radical transparency. I like the word transparency because really what happened is that I was a liar for a very long time. And you may know a little bit of my story, David, but maybe some of the viewers haven't. And I don't like to get too caught up on story, because we're all telling stories. And on one hand, stories are beautiful and we're writing new stories. And on another, past stories are there purely just to, in my opinion, to support to show the transition, not to dwell in the past. So it's like, I'm not interested in really people's victim stories. And I listen to a lot of them and I'm happy to hear them. But I'm not interested in them for too long. Because what happens with a victim story is like a story of an abandonment, a story of being a criminal, a story of my mum, struggling on her own, a story of these. They're cool and they happened, yeah, but they're not in this present moment. And this present moment is all we have. And we find that really the only reason stories stay alive in this present moment is because we haven't actually let them go yet. They're still identifying in us. And there's some sort of ownership to them being who we are. And so for me, just growing up in an environment of being a criminal from a young age, I grew up in a lot of lies. So I grew up in a council estate. I grew up in a world where everybody was, chatting, gossiping, talking behind each other's back, all this sort of stuff. And I was a criminal from the age of 15, really, shoplifting. And then I became a burglar at the age of 16, and I was burgling. It moved really from shops to sheds to cars to houses. And then for a number of years, I was burgling houses. And then from that, really, I became a drug dealer as well. At the age of 16, 17, 18, I was into a lot of hedonistic ways, snorting cocaine, taking MDMA, smoking a lot of marijuana, and crime, really, and going to the gym and, really living this sort of phony gangsters reality, really. And I listen to a lot of people that talk about doing crime, and often I hear what they describe, and it's like, it's not really crime what people are doing. I was doing crime because it was really my lifestyle. And it was like you get up and go to work 7 hours a day. I get up and do crime. It's like that. It was more about organized crime, where you're using crime as a way to fund your lifestyle, and so from that, I really realized at a young age, at 18, I went to a Young Offenders Institute in Reading Remand Centre in England. And luckily, I only served 9 weeks in Reading Remand Centre. So I was only in there for 9 weeks. And basically, you're locked in a cell for 20 hours a day, and you come out, you get a little bit of movement, get some food, and you can, if you're lucky, you can go to like some evening class and read a book or something like that. But really, you're in a cell for pretty much around 18 to 19, 20 hours a day. And that was a real change for me. That was a real opportunity for me to look at my life. It was a real great moment of transition. It's, if you listen to anything that Joseph Campbell's ever written on the hero's journey, these are these peak moments where you get the opportunity to really reflect and check in with where you're heading in life, right? Is this who I am? Is this where I'm going? It's a bit like an initiation. That remand center was a big initiation for me as a man, as was going to sleep with a prostitute at the age of 16 with a group of older men, and I lost my virginity to a prostitute. And that was a big initiation because I didn't want that to happen in that way because of my beliefs around prostitution and so on. But when you're hanging out with a lot of men that are 5 and 6 and 7 and 10 years older than you, then you do as you need to do in order to be in that gang. And I don't regret anything that I did, but that was definitely another initiation point. So at 16 was a big initiation, and 18 was another big initiation. And and the reason why I want to tell you that little bit of background is that when at the age of 30, I decided to never lie again. This is when I had a huge change in my life, where I was still I moved out of crime. I became an actor. I became a professional actor. I started making films and doing theatre and television and little small roles in this way. And I was on this path to be an actor, to be the famous Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp and get out there and make millions and change my life and so on. And I was really on that path for many years, 12 to 13 years. I was following that path. And then I had a huge shift in perspective. And that shift in perspective at the age of 20, 29, 30, another big initiation, was kicked into gear by meeting a woman that I fell in love with. Fell in love I don't really use that word anymore. I call it rising love. But at the time, I was like, I was head over heels in love. And so but it wasn't like this love just for her. It's like I kicked out like it was like the universe, the world. I fell in love with life. In falling in love with her, I simultaneously fell in love with life. And what life said to me at that moment is that stop lying. There's too much lies in the world. And so with this initiation, with this moment, with this woman, with this change, I decided to never lie again. And that led me down a path of transparency. And what it did is it highlighted that actually I might have been thinking I was a criminal in the youth and I didn't want to tell anybody about that. And that was such a bad thing to do. But what I started to realize is when I went out into society, I realized that actually everywhere in society is lying to each other, lying to themselves, fighting for stuff, conflicting over sales and marketing and all this stuff. And actually there's a hell of a lot of lies going on, exactly the same as there was in this world of crime. No different, just with a different jumper. Same jumper, different color. And so that's really just a little background of why I said, well, okay, well, what would really change my life and actually contribute to changing maybe society, culture, and other the world in that way, in as within, as without. And it was actually to stop lying. That would be the most rebellious thing that I could do, and that I could take responsibility for. Because I can't go and change everybody and tell everybody, although I wanted to. I had £1 in my pocket, £1 in my pocket, and thought that I could change the world. I mean, I might have needed a little bit more cash than that. So, for a long time, I sort of felt like I would change the go outside and change outside first because it's easier. and then I got directed inside.
Thank you for bringing this background in. I actually didn't know your story. So yeah, it's for me, the moment that you described where you rose in love with that woman and how it opened you up to life, like that was for me the moment, like from what you described, felt like the strongest in my body, like wow, like something in my heart area just like opening up. And yeah, being reminded of similar moments of, it's like stepping through a certain portal that you cannot go back. Like you have a certain experience, and it just changes how you view life. And yeah, and to me it sounds like that's, this initiation brought you to this place of, okay, I've done the lying part enough. I've experienced it. I know the consequences of lying. And I also like, what you brought in about your particular lifestyle with like crime, but then also seeing how it doesn't even have to be so out of the norm to be, like the what you were saying to me sounded like, all of our normal life is filled with lying. So it's not just the burglars and the drug dealers that are compulsively lying. It's most of us, most of the time.
Right. Yeah. And that's why it's a big one. It's a big one because because what happens, and I've had this, it's been a phenomenal challenging, which is great because we only grow in challenge, but it's been phenomenal to be that, and that's quite radical, right? There you go. There's another radical choice. And it's been quite phenomenal for me because I don't have any real attachments from other things or people or beliefs holding me back from being able to make this decision. A lot of people I meet can't do it because they don't have the let's say the confidence or the courageous heart enough to go, well, if I now stop lying, my whole life changes. My whole life, because I've been lying to myself and everybody for so long that my whole life changes, and I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, like there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake, exactly. And for me, there wasn't anything at stake. Nothing. I wasn't like, oh, what if I just start speaking my truth? No. And you're going to laugh at this as well. It's so beautiful. You may laugh at this. Is that the irony is the only thing that was holding me back was the fact that I was not willing to communicate my truth anyway, because when I started speaking my truth, especially about my past, which is sometimes what holds so many people back, about the things they've done in the past, that was holding me back for so long. I was hanging out with friends for many years. They didn't even know that I took drugs, never knew that I was a criminal, never knew my upbringing. They might have known a little bit about me, but they didn't know me. And when I actually started to come out and express myself, even I remember, he's not in my life anymore, but I had a friend who was like, you never ever told me about that. And it's like, yeah, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? I lived that whole life completely in fear of being able to communicate about my past and owning up that I had done, let's say, some of these things that were judged in society as so wrong and bad. And that when I embraced them and started speaking my truth, they just fell away completely. They didn't even exist anymore. And you know what? People loved me for being able to tell them that.
So it wasn't like you were with that friend holding back from telling that. It was just that it never came up for you as something important. Is that it?
No, not that it didn't come. Yeah, definitely it wasn't important, but it was definitely something that I was hiding.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like it wasn't something I was like now, in the first 5 minutes of talking to you, 10 minutes of talking to you, I can tell you pretty much the whole of my life story, and I could reveal everything to you. I can reveal to you I can personally reveal to you everything that's going on inside of me because I know that's liberation. So you can ask me about anything today, what I've done, what I've not done. You can ask me about experiences that I've had. You can ask me about any. If in that moment it doesn't feel transparent to tell you that, then my transparency would be that I don't feel confident or strong enough to tell you that right now in under these circumstances. That would be my transparency.
Right.
And that I would tune into my body and say to you, you know, that's scaring me to tell you this right now. And maybe on video, this is not the best place for me at this time, but maybe if we were just together and I felt safer, then maybe I could share with you. That's transparency. But what people get confused about transparency is they think, oh, I meet people and they go, well, Simon, I don't want to be I don't want to tell everybody everything. I don't want to be transparent. And it doesn't seem to benefit me. And do you know what? People don't need to know what I'm doing and I don't want to tell everybody. So I won't tell them. And I'm like, well, that's fine. But what you just said was very transparent. Yeah. And they go, oh, so you mean I don't have to tell everybody everything? Not if you don't want to. Yeah. I'm not telling you that you have to reveal everything straight away. But what I am saying is that what you hold back keeps you held back. That's what I found. And that's just my own personal experience.
Yeah. I love that you're bringing this up, this discernment between just sharing everything that's going on and transparency that actually includes choice.
Yes.
Because I know this pattern from myself very well of really, really lacking connection, really wanting connection. And then the only way I know how to create it is to say everything that is present to me, because I somehow want the other person to understand me. And so in these moments, just not listening to my boundaries at all, like not having any sense of freedom. Do I want that right now? But just this kind of, I need connection. I need to somehow feel that you understand me. And so it just changes a lot when I realize, that's not really what it's about.
Right. Well, that's lovely what you say there, because me and my brother started talking. I have a beautiful younger brother who's been a great support to me throughout all of my life, actually, and that became more apparent as I got older. But he's been a great support to me in terms of conversation, and we've shared many conversation about transparency, and he always likes to say that transparency is not, it's an inside job. And so transparency is not about what's going out, it's about what's going on inside. And that links me to the beautiful work of Don Miguel Ruiz with First Agreement, be impeccable to your word. So being impeccable to your word is not just about being impeccable to your word and speaking everything outward. It's about being impeccable to the words that you're saying internally. It's about the internal dialogue. So transparency for me is about the internal dialogue, and then that comes out into the outer world. And so, for example, when you share just now, I've got this neediness, and you're feeling this neediness. So then transparency would be for me to like breathe into that, check that in the body, and go, wow, I got this real desire to speak right now to you, to tell you something, whoever the person is. But I can also feel like real tension in my chest, or maybe it's in my solar plexus moving now. And it feels like a real neediness around this. And actually that neediness doesn't feel so authentic for me in this moment, because it feels quite heavy. And I'm scared that if I maybe share that out in this space now, or I start to communicate from that place, you may misinterpret me. And actually, if I drop into my need underneath this, like if I just take a moment to breathe into that, and then breathe into that and feel that, and you might turn around and say, well, you know what, I have a real need to be seen right now, and a need for touch, and a need for connection. And I understand that that doesn't mean you have to meet that need, whoever the person is, but that actually feels beautiful just to acknowledge that need. Yeah. For example, this is like, so transparent communication for me requires more feeling and more presence and more time. And this is why when we do sharings and sharing circles, and sometimes me and Dara can share for hours 2 hours or more with our eyes closed, and we're just sharing 5-minute timers back and forth, or 10-minute timers, depending on what we agree at the beginning. And we spend 2 hours of sharing what's going on inside and what's coming up. And it requires that. And then all of a sudden, so much dissolves and moves away. And then there's this pure connection, this pure engagement, and this sort of freedom, as you mentioned earlier, arises. And there's again, I use the word liberation, but there's a real liberation in transparency. It's like transparency for me is the language of love, I call it, just to play with words. And transparency for me is a revolutionary act.
And it's interesting that by naming these things, they dissolve.
Yeah.
Such a paradox, right? Like we're like, oh, something comes up, but I don't want it to be in the way. So I'm going to contract around it and push it away so that it's not in the way. And then realizing, oh, maybe actually the opposite approach is more effective.
Right. Yeah. 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 And I'm going to say one thing in there for you, David, because I had a sharing yesterday with a man, and he's very, he's inward, and he's more, let's say, introverted, and he likes a lot of silence, and he likes solitude, and he feels that closure is not necessarily a negative thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't said that it was, but this was just what came up in the sharing. And we had this sort of exchange, and we both felt at the end it was a little bit heady, and it was a little bit conceptual, and did both of us really drop into feeling? Because I always find that the feeling, and I like the way you communicate, I feel that you're when you communicate, you're feeling as you communicate. And this is a practice as well. And he was saying that in silence there's everything, and silence is beautiful, and when all the words drop away, we're just meet in silence, and we can just look into each other's eyes, and we see, we can meet there, and no words are needed. And I know many other people will resonate that as well, because they feel like, oh, I don't need to express, and it's all inside. And I said, I totally resonate with what you're saying in the sense of what you're pointing to. But many people who are silent are not silent. What's happening is there's a lot of turmoil going on inside. Yeah. And so if you're silent because you just love silence and solitude, and you feel very zen, and you feel at peace, and you feel this sense of inner joy and inner exuberance just from your natural state of being, because you just feel, you don't have anything going on, there's not too much monkey mind going on, and you just feel a sense of ease, then that's beautiful. That's a beautiful space. That's a sense of what I call inner peace, a deep inner peace, not just happiness or joy. It's like a deep inner peace, and that can be obtained. But what I found is that first there needs to be a little bit of clearing. And one of the clearing practices that I've used for many, many years is morning pages by a woman called Julia Cameron, who introduced, actually a friend called Lucianne Holmes introduced it to me many years ago, but it was devised by a woman called Julia Cameron. And it's basically 3 pages of A4 paper every single morning, stream of consciousness, and just writing down whatever's going on inside of you. And it's a great practice for the people listening. And it transformed my life in miraculous ways, because it supported me to cathartically express myself. And actually, talking of all the crime and everything, I remember one day I wrote 100 pages about all of my some stories around crime and all this stuff that was going on inside of me. And to release that, David, was such a joy, that afterwards I did feel quiet inside. Yeah. So I don't know if we're just going with the flow, as you know, but I don't know if that sparks something in you.
Yeah, a lot. What comes up for me is, again, this kind of paradox of, once I open up to all the chaos, the turmoil, as you said, that is inside of me, it can feel like a worsening. Like, for example, I know that when I started practicing meditation regularly, I was so tense. That describes it the best, that there were no thoughts coming up. Like I was tensing so much that literally I was not aware of any thoughts popping up. And, for some time I thought, wow, I must be just this really natural talent, because all the people are talking about thoughts coming up during meditation. And for me, nothing comes up. And, you know, feeling really proud of myself and my inner critic being like, you know, that's because you're trying hard enough. And so once I realized that, because I didn't really feel relaxed after meditation. So I started being confused because people say meditation relaxes, you know, it's like, I'm really drained after meditation. What's going on there? And so when I started getting into this more relaxed state, suddenly all, you know, my mind was being flushed by all these thoughts, and I was shocked to realize that my mind is just like everyone else's. And I, you know, I didn't want it to be true. I preferred the old story of, oh, maybe, you know, I'm just different, and my mind just is, you know, is really steady. And so, and this comes up because as you were talking about this willingness to acknowledge all the turmoil that is going on inside of you and express it in one way or another, even if it's just for yourself, it takes courage, because at first you don't know what's on the other side of it. You don't know the relief. You're just becoming more and more acutely aware of all the shit that's been going on inside of you. It's been piling up, and it's been, you know, creating all these tensions and contractions and disconnections and pain. And, but, you know, at first there's I don't know. I didn't really have this promise of relief. I just realized I have no other choice. It's, you know, it's too painful to stay in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Which,
yeah,
yeah.
naming that and
No, carry on.
and acknowledge the courage that it takes for anyone watching, you know, the fear also that comes up before taking the step and saying, okay, I'm going to acknowledge all my shit, because before, you know, I'm hiding myself from it. It's like a dark spot. And so once it starts to be uncovered, it's really uncomfortable. And so to take this step towards saying, okay, I'm going to be honest with myself, regardless of what it is that actually comes up. I have so much respect for any human being going into that process.
Yeah.
Because I know what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise. Yeah, this is the invitation on our events as well, is to really to feel that, and to know that whatever you're feeling is okay.
Yeah.
And many people haven't heard that. Many people haven't realized that they've actually got the permission for that. This is crazy. This is not me giving them the permission, or Dara giving them the permission, or you giving them the permission, but actually on some level to just hear it from a fellow brother and sister say, it's okay. Huh? It's like, yeah, you got some crazy fucked up thoughts going on, and you're a bit confused, and there's a bit of anxiety in there, and you're a bit overwhelmed, and you're not 100% certain of anything, and you feel like you're holding back a lot of tears. And actually, if you expressed your anger, you're really scared that you might actually kill someone, because you feel like there's, like, if you uncap that top of anger that you've been building up for the last 15, 20 years, 30 years, that you don't know who you are if you allow that out. We get it. Yeah. It's like, yeah, cool. So, and we're just saying, you've got permission to let that out today. And that actually, whatever's there, we can all hold together. We can hold it together. And that gives me tingles in my head as I say that to you. Yeah. I just got like I call it tingles of truth. Just went all the way up my head and on my neck. Because if we can do anything for a brother and sister, is to just meet them in that space and go, one, you're not alone. Two, no matter how weird or crazy or messed up you think you are not alone. And actually, there's many others out there just the same as you, but they're not actually ready to say, hey, I'm weird, messed up, and uncertain, and don't know what's going down. Yeah. And so for me, this again is the safe space of transparency. Where many times on the events, me and Dara are in there with everybody, and it's bringing stuff up for us. I'm often called into the circle and end up crying and releasing what I didn't know was there, because one mirror enables me to uncover a dark spot that I wasn't able to see until that person came into the space, and enables me to see it. It's so profound. And then every time I now say this, David, you might like this, is that whenever I cry, it's another ego persona, and I don't like to demonize the ego, but it's another persona, another filter of a personality that was holding on. And every time I cry, it dissolves, and afterwards I'm one less messed up. I love what Jamie Cato calls them, special need freak. I'm one less. I'm one less attached, um, um, yearning for love. You know, some call it inner child, whatever you want to call it. It's like that's really the invitation. And I love it when we can cry together, and I love it when men cry together. It's really a very beautiful and quite liberating and quite erotic, actually, in a very beautiful, you know, erotic not meaning sexual, but it's very erotic. It's lovely.
Like pleasurable in some way.
Yeah, it's like a softening that takes place when, and that softening is what happens when we make love. When we really cultivate love and we're with somebody for a long period of time, and we're not just, I'm not talking here just about ejaculation. I mean, like really just cultivating energy and softening. And like the other day, for example, I was cultivating love with Dara, and I was in resistance for a few days, and lots going on. And I was feeling some tension in my body, and we hadn't been cultivating, doing our daily practice. I hadn't been doing some orgasmic yoga, which is what I often practice. And I just hadn't really brought any real touch or connection to my genitals or to my body in that way, with that intention. And there was a resistance to come together. So just quick story. We did prayer. We do this thing, a beautiful practice called soft entry. It's cultivation. You might have done this with your partner. You basically soft entry, and you lay together and you just breathe, circular breathing. And the woman or man, but in this case, it's man and woman, because the penis is inside the vagina, or whatever you like to call it. And I like the yoni and lingam. And so once the penis is inserted into the yoni and it's soft, and you just start breathing together and you're embraced, and I breathe up my back and down Dara's front. She breathes up her back and down my front, and we do this circular breathing. It's taken a long time to even start to soften, and for me to feel and open receptivity to this. And anyway, now it's very beautiful. So we started doing that for 15, 20 minutes, and then we did just belly to belly, and we're laying there, and not so much was happening. And then had a little breakthrough, and there was like some softening, and I could feel myself softening into it, and I started to breathe more. And I don't know, about 40 minutes or so in, we started to like move into some penetration, and then what happened is, like, really, really just softly, and we were cultivating energy. I then at one point, and I don't always ejaculate. I don't just not ejaculate, but I'm very much I'm holding my ejaculation as part of my own decision, which is what I like, because it builds energy for me. But in this time, I hadn't ejaculated for a while. I can't remember how long. It must have been maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I can imagine. And basically what happened, I just allowed myself to just be, and I allowed the energy to come. And then I ejaculated. And then in that ejaculation, and this has happened a few times for me, this primal roar came. And this roar comes sometimes, and I've been noticing it in the last few years. And when it comes, it's so deep. It's like a roar. And it's almost like my face does tighten up. My body contracts. And then I like scream a bit more. And then I break into tears. And in these tears, the release is so euphoric that everything falls away. Or it even makes me want to cry in this moment. I'm like feeling it right this second. It's like even I'm doing these practices, and I'm showing up, and I know a lot of these wisdom and how to be, and even in that day to day, things mount up, they stick to you, and then there's just this call to open all the time, to soften, and in that there was just these tears, and then this like deep release, and in that moment there is it's just like nothing matters. Yeah, really nothing matters. It's like so, and I'm not just talking about ejaculation. I'm not just talking about, you know, trying to get to an end result and ejaculating and thinking I had some great orgasm. This is more about a release of the armor and the conditioning and the attachments to holding on to the false identities and the resistance and the closure.
Yeah. Hmm. 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 Just wanting to let that sink.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, feeling really tender just hearing these things and witnessing you and being reminded of the moments where I experienced maybe a taste of what you're describing. And I think the word that describes best what's going on besides this tenderness is a kind of wonder
Mm.
or awe. But it's, you know, it's not like this ecstatic. It's quite subtle. But
Mm. Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and and just want to say to that is that in that wonder, when you feel that wonder, and let's say you find pathways or little access points to open to that wonder more and more, you just want to share it with everyone. Yeah, I know that's what drives you, and that's what drives me. It's like, you know, and I always say to men as well, and I know this is really a part of your vision, which I totally respect and honor, is about supporting men. And it's something that I'm currently putting together a revolutionary man. I'm calling it the Revolutionary Man, a retreat that I want to invite a small group of real, and I say this, I don't exclude other men, but I really want to connect with some men that have been doing a level of personal inquiry and personal work, and want to deepen that and unite with some other brothers and just spend 7 days together, really
Mm.
cultivating and connecting and so on. So I'm currently putting that together, and one of the and to do stuff around sexuality and orgasmic yoga and cultivation of our life force, and then how to walk as a revolutionary man, or and in that radically intimate way, and how I feel that there's such a I don't know, it's like a drive for me to be with men that are willing to drop the armor, because you know that's what this is about. So we can put the armor down and allow out that really that more softly strong being. So there's the softness is the strength, yeah. And it's like, and we can come out, and we know we don't need the armor anymore, but within that we have such a halo, such an electromagnetic field around us, that we realize that we never needed such a confined, dense armor anyway, because it was actually heavy. Yeah. And so that's really something that's really calling me now, after having that, you know, held a lot of mixed gender spaces for some years now.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, feels like a good time to hang out with some brothers.
I'm aware of the time.
Yeah, no worries.
It's 7:05. Yeah, so wanting to round this up.
Please do.
Yeah, and the thing that's most present right now is I want to acknowledge you. Yeah, just I feel really moved just to be able to have such an intimate conversation with you, and your willingness to show up and to share. Yeah. And to follow my invitation and to share, to share with the project that I'm working on, to share with all the evolving men that are watching. Just
Well, thank you. Thank you for also, putting yourself out there. And that decision that you told me, it's like, rather than look out there and go that nobody's doing anything, but actually taking that responsibility, that full responsibility to act on what you feel inside. And that inspires me. I created Simon on the Sofa many, many years ago. And when I got your message and looked at a couple of your videos, I was like, it reminded me of that nice, vibrant, pure energy, just wanting to create for in my opinion, the pure reasons. And I feel that from you. And you're coming to play as well with us. So I'm going to get to meet you a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing I want to just bring into this Facebook Live before closing, that Dara and Simon are going to be on tour in Europe, and they're coming to a few different cities. I think 5 cities, right? I remember
6 cities. Yeah, 6 cities.
Stockholm, Vienna,
Stockholm, Amsterdam, Antwerp, Zurich, Berlin, Vienna.
Awesome. And so I'm stoked to be joining together with my partner in Vienna. And just super excited about this. And
we're gonna have fun. It's gonna be good. I was very happy when you applied, but we can save that because this live will be up for a while and people will think that it's still happening now. So if you're watching this on the replay and it's gone past February or March, this is no void, this bit of talk.
And to add some marketing pitch, if you're watching this in January or February, you still have a chance.
I think what you and I are serving is way beyond marketing, or like maybe I'll say this as well to everybody listening, because it's really important for me at the moment, is I'm really not looking for followers. I'm really not needing anybody's adoration or acknowledgement that, you need to listen to anything that I've got to say. Like what I really if I'm asking for anything, is co-creators of a more beautiful world. And so that's how I see David. That's why I decided to come on his call. I didn't come on here, and we said at the beginning with no agenda. I wanted to meet David. And so, so I really sort of, just really want to keep bringing that into my own awareness and not get pulled into the need for viewers or the dopamine hit or anything like that. And just, if one brother listens to this today and feels inspired, then you and I have done a good day's work.
Beautiful. Yeah. Fully with you. Cool, Simon. So for the people watching, check out what Dara and Simon are up to. I think you shared it as well. I'm going to tag you in the video so that people can easily find you. And
of course, I share it a few times. I've really enjoyed the conversation. So I do a little newsletter out next week as well and share your stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, man. Can't wait to meet you in person.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to playing with you and being a bit radical together.
Yeah. Thank you, Simon.
Take care.